Amina, what is wanton endangerment? That's what one of the officers involved with the Breonna Taylor shooting was charged with.
Well, that's interesting. So you need to stay tuned to find out what wanton endangerment actually is and why none of the officers were charged with actually causing Breonna Taylor's death.
Ladies in law, ladies in law, ladies in law, ladies in law.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in.
Make sure you like our video and subscribe to the Ladies in Law.
Yeah, you know that little heart and thumbs up at the bottom of your screen? Click it before you do anything else.
Right, because legal news like this is too hot to miss. And we're bringing it to you every Thursday at 3 p.m. I'm Rippy.
And I'm Shake.
And we're the Ladies in Law,
where we're ripping and shaking up all the legal information you know, need to know, and want to know.
From the tabloids to the courthouse to your own home.
So last week, we discussed the fatal shooting of Breonna Taylor and how one officer was charged in the case from the grand jury process. And what we discussed in that video was the actual grand jury process in Kentucky. We also talked about what happens in Michigan. And in Michigan, the prosecutor has sole authority in bringing charges.
Right.
Now, the Kentucky grand jury ended up charging Officer Brett Hankinson with 3 counts of wanton endangerment in the first degree. This week in this episode, we'll get into what this charge actually means and the penalties associated with it.
So with the 3 wanton endangerment charges, Officer Hankinson is actually not charged with causing Breonna's death.
Nope.
Rather, he is charged with wantonly and blindly firing shots into Breonna's apartment. The bullets ended up traveling through her bedroom into the apartment next door, where 3 people were inside. So those are the 3 charges. The 3 people included a pregnant woman and a child, and Officer Hankinson shot 10 rounds. 10 rounds.
Yeah, he's going at it.
So now we'll get into the law actually behind wanton endangerment in the first degree, and then we'll discuss why no charges have been brought against any officer for actually causing Breonna's death.
Yeah.
Okay. So according to Kentucky law, someone is guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree when, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, he or she wantonly engages in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. In some of our past videos, we've actually talked about certain charges requiring specific intent or a specific state of mind. The person must have specifically intended, for example, to kill or injure someone.
Yeah.
On the other hand, some charges require an objective standard where the law views it from a reasonable person standard. Here, wanton endangerment doesn't require specific intent to kill another person or cause serious physical injury. It just requires that you do something that happens to create that type of danger.
Like shooting 10 rounds through a sliding glass door into an apartment complex?
Right, so in this case, Officer Hankinson blindly firing these 10 rounds into an apartment obviously creates a substantial danger of death or physical injury to another person. That's clear. A reasonable person would say that that action rises to the level of danger required for wanton endangerment. Now, the reason why we are going into so much detail about this is that because wanton endangerment is based on this objective, reasonable person standard, it's much easier to prove than murder, which requires a subjective standard of what actually went on in someone's mind. They must have specifically intended to kill someone.
So yeah, the prosecutor would have to
prove that.
Prove like, this is what Officer Hankinson was thinking. I'm going to shoot and it's going to kill somebody.
In that moment. So that's harder to prove what's going on in somebody's mind from just an objective, like, okay, this is reasonable, this is not reasonable.
So the prosecutor is going to have an easier win this way. Well, the Kentucky Attorney General's office made a statement supporting the 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment charges in this case. They said that Officer Hankinson's shots came from outside a sliding glass door and through a bedroom window into Breonna's bedroom,
in Breonna's bedroom.
Yeah. And some of the bullets went through Breonna's bedroom and into the apartment next door, where the 3 people were inside, including a pregnant woman and a child. Now, the 3 charges are for each of those people in the apartment, not Breonna, okay? Not for Breonna. No one, and none of the officers have been charged for Breonna. Yeah. Because each charge, quote, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to human life. And Officer Hankinson, quote, wantonly shot a gun. Now, the AG statement also said, and I quote, there is no conclusive evidence that any bullets fired from Officer Hankinson's weapon struck Miss Taylor. Okay, so he wasn't charged with her death.
Nope.
And the other officers involved, between the 2 of them, they fired 22 shots that night, 6 of which they struck Breonna.
They killed her.
Yeah, according to medical evidence, quote, medical evidence shows that Miss Taylor would have died from the fatal shot within seconds to 2 minutes after being struck. So there's no funny business that occurred from the time she was struck to when she passed.
Yeah.
But Attorney General Daniel Cameron has told reporters that the officers were, quote, justified in using their use of force. They were justified in their use of force.
22 rounds.
22 rounds because Breonna's boyfriend fired shots at them first. So basically they're claiming that the police acted in self-defense. 22 shots versus I don't know how many he shot. I read some articles, it was very minimal, maybe 1 or 2. I don't know if that's so justified. That's
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because with the law, I don't think it's clear cut. It's like if someone uses deadly force, it gives another person the right to counteract with deadly force. So
But how much deadly force?
It may not matter how many bullets. If one person fires 1 bullet, another person can fire 50, because it's still it's still deadly force.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see if the other officers actually end up getting charged.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the legal standard for first-degree wanton endangerment. Now let's get into the penalties. In Kentucky, first-degree wanton endangerment is a Class D felony, which is actually the lowest out of 4 classes of felonies in Kentucky. The maximum sentence is 5 years, and the minimum is 1 year. So in this case, if Officer Hankinson is convicted, he would face up to 5 years in prison for each count. We're looking at a maximum of 15 years, but also a minimum of 3 years. On the other hand, a Class A felony such as murder carries a sentence of up to 50 years to life with a minimum of 20 years. So there's a big difference then in what he's actually facing right now versus what the murder charge would carry.
Right, and he's likely not, even if he gets convicted, he's not going to get the maximum.
No, he probably won't get the 15 years.
No,
15 years.
No, I doubt that. Okay, so let's do a little wrap up. We got Officer Hankinson. He's the only one of the 3 officers who was charged in Breonna's death, but he wasn't charged for her murder or anything like that. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment, with the Kentucky Attorney General saying that all of the officers, pretty much, when it goes toward Breonna, were justified in their use of force. And this felony, wanton endangerment, it is a felony, but it is the very lowest available in Kentucky, with a maximum of 5 years for each count. Where on the other hand, with murder, he could be facing 50 to life, 50 years to life.
And a minimum of 20.
And a minimum of 20. So we are absolutely sure that Breonna's family, her attorneys, the legal team involved, all of her supporters are not going to just settle with this. No. So this case, like we said in our last video,
not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. And it'll be interesting to see, like you were saying, if the other officers do end up getting charged and if more charges are brought even against Officer Hankinson. So stay tuned to find out more. We'll be definitely following up with more videos. So thanks for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe so that you get all of the hottest legal news every week from the Ladies in Law.
That's another episode of Ladies in Law. not your average lawyers.
Rip it up, shake it